Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another set of tournament games. These matches will determine the last 10 players to join us for Acropolis 4's Battlement Stage. The tribunals are taken care of and the invitations have been sent out to those lords of Cosmonarchy that placed top 4 in our previous Acropolis. Only 3 of them ended up accepting. That means that Krankendow will be sitting this one out, and that means that we open up an extra spot from the Gauntlet Stage. Additionally, Oya, a Protoss player, declined his invite after qualifying through the Tribunal stage. That opens up another slot, which is why instead of qualifying 4 players from each gauntlet, we actually qualify 5. Let's take a look at our bracket so far. As you can see, it's been filled out. The results are in for everything other than the qualification matches that we are going to be taking a look at today. First up, of course, is Shopkeeper Dog's Sosij versus Sosij's Protoss. We had some interesting results and some no-shows due to scheduling or other issues, and so as we get into this first match, I'm very excited to see which of these two players are going to have an opportunity to properly qualify. Shopkeeper Dog hasn't actually participated in too many of the tribunals, but he was one game off of qualifying all the way back last year against Newt, Terran versus Terran final. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got in store as the Sosij. And with that, let's do it. It is time to be taking a look at Shopkeeper Dog's Sosij. He is our... I actually don't know this color offhand. It's not blood, though, right? It must be maroon. Oh, it was blood. The blood Sosij. In the bottom left, not eggshell blue this time for some reason. Sosij is rocking out as... actually, I can't tell you. This isn't snow, and this isn't just plain old white. But I actually don't know what other color it will be. It's not tea green either. I'll say white, though. Okay, it was just regular. For some reason, I thought it wasn't. We have those wonderful color guesses because Cosmonarchy has over 100 player colors for you to select from. Oh my god. So definitely check that out in your config if you haven't already checked that out. So honestly, the config is like a treasure trove of features that most people don't even know about, and it's pretty neat to see in action. By the way, as per usual, guys, as I'm covering this part of the tournament, this gauntlet stage here, we will be doing those interstitial video show face and tell you about the bracket between each stage. So I'll do another round to preview our matches going into the lower bracket there, the lower qualification, but you were able to see who was awaiting the losers of these matches there. Whoever ends up losing this match will be facing Kutiam Chupin, Terran from Hungary, who has been grinding out, probably has played like 1,000 games already this year, just wild stuff. And I'm very interested to see what all he has in store for us, since he has made it to the best of 5s. And he'll be going up against either Shopkeeper Dog's Sosij or Sosij's Protoss. I guess he probably doesn't have a preference. Maybe you'd hope that it isn't going to be Shop Dog, just because Shop Dog is the #1 seeded player here, the highest mechanical skill player in this part of the bracket. It's certainly the shoe-in to get in. Sosij coming in as an underdog, but we'll see. We'll see. The Gauntlet is coming in, and it's being power built by 3 workers very quickly as well. So I'm interested in seeing what kind of build orders we're going to be seeing out of Shopkeeper Dog. He's harvesting minerals as opposed to the ridge gas here in the middle of the map, and the Dracoden doesn't look like it's on intercept course for that Pilgrim. So those harvests will continue unless something miraculous occurs. No, he actually is going to go ahead and check it. This is good. In a way, this is very good for Sosij, because he's going to shut down that persistent mining across the map and make sure that he actually secures the worker kill. But in a way, it's kind of good for Shopdog too, right? Because he finishes his gauntlet. Now the Vicar comes out. He's got 3 missionaries, which just on a push, they will be able to handle things like the Dracoden moving forward and trying to like walk past the base or whatever to see what's going on. If the Dracoden sticks around for too long, the Vicar can hit it with a slow. Its on-hit effect does slow things, and so kind of like a Hierophant, if the Hierophant slow dealt damage instead of eventually dealing a critical blow to the attack speed of the target and having the ability to enhance your own unit's attack speed. Very fast dyad from Shopkeeper Dog, so he's already starting off demonstrating tech that the other Sosij players aren't really doing. Dracoden just concerned about that lower temple, making sure nothing there too crazy. And it looks like Shopdog wants to go for an expansion. He's got a couple of pilgrims out here. I'm guessing this is going to be dyad plus 2 pilgrims to make the landlock, and so the dyad will start it. Dyad builds structures a lot faster than pilgrims. They effectively count as like as if you already had 3 pilgrims on there for the build timer. So this is like power building with 5 workers, approximately. It's not quite 1-to-1, but that does mean that the landlock will be coming up pretty quickly. A single proselyte at this time of the game. Shopdog is cooking something. During this time, Sosij has taken a slight worker lead and will be throwing down his own Nexus. A Grand Library is coming up. People haven't seen Sosij versus Protoss in some time, and so I'm really excited about this series for that purpose as well. But I gotta say, this is looking like a very interesting build order. The Witness comes in. Don't mind the fact that it looks like it's been turned up, upside down. The Vicar's pulling the units back and forth. You can sometimes dodge projectiles that way, but I don't know if that's what, Shopkeeper Doug is actually doing. And yes, because this, I do have to comment on this. People will be commenting, and like, what the hell happened to the Witness? Why is it backwards? Well, even the production icon was flipped as well. Oh, very cool. We have the eyelet out. Remind me, I got to send the graphic to June 3 Hong so I can get a wireframe. The eyelet has the ability to pull units as well, and when you pull the units, they do indeed get the same heal that you get from there, and it is a detector, and so that Witness almost got yoinked. Proselyte was the first thing to shoot it. Pretty interesting situation here. Everything that Shopkeeper Dog has will be just fine versus what Sosij is cooking. I do like the pulse. No focus fire from Sosij has actually been able to do anything. Focus fire is something you really need to watch out for versus the Sosij. And that's what the Proselyte was for, by the way. It was the eyelet for detection to just make sure, I guess, like anti-witness tech in some ways. Prosceniums have already come up, though. The Cypher was erected in the background, not for the Mimic, necessarily, which is what the Radix gives you when you unlock that tech node. But if you end up getting the both of the advanced tech relays here, the Gauntlet and the Cypher, you unlock Tier 2 structures. And so multiple dyads are making Prosceniums. Shopkeeper Dog really is showing the difference between the two different worker types here. And obviously that does mean he's at a worker deficit in term, straight up, but... that is, I know somebody like Hit 'em Up would just be like, yeah, this is where you make 4 landlocks. So they are pretty cheap. Just occasionally using those active abilities to get heals. He doesn't want to invest in the Chantry right now, it looks like, which would be more passive healing plus the cloaking. 3 Dracodon drop, earmarked for the main base. Sosij did this versus Thunder Slaps in Tribunal 6, and it was, I believe it was on this map, actually. Yeah, it was pretty effective. So he is dropping the 3 once again. Warning, warning, 3 incoming. And there it is. I'm guessing we are going to see some Dyad snipes here. You can 2-volley them with the number of Dracodons that we have. A single Mimic arrives. Hello. I am a Mimic. I am not exactly helping. You had a little bit of extra clone damage there. The Mimic takes any weapon fired near it by an ally and shoots it, and then it gets put on cooldown until that weapon's cooldown is over. So we look at the attack speed, weapon cooldown 0.75 seconds. So, you need to wait that long before the Mimic can activate again if it cloned a Vicar attack. Obviously, it fires faster with missionaries, but you get the idea. Hey, some Thaumatrogs are coming out. Okay, so Shopkeeper Dog said that the Thaumatrog isn't the most stupendous unit, and it looks like he's just going to go ahead and tech rush. He does end up catching that drop on the way back in. That was a little bit lazy from Sosij, maybe even overambitious. He's going into Prostration Stage, some Tier 3 of his own, but getting the Conduit and the Bestiary tells me that Shopkeeper Dog is lunging towards Tier 3 Sosij units, dead on. Not really interested in sticking it out at Tier 1 or Tier 2. And even though he's got the Prosceniums coming, I wonder, are we going to see Panoplies? Is he going to stick to the Biotic branch the whole way through, all the way up the tech tree? A very different style of a Sosij play. But Shopkeeper Dog's got his spreadsheets, and he's got his math, and he's got... Oh, no, he's adding functions now. What could this be for? My money's on objects. See, a little bit of a mid-game object switch here. Absorb a lot of incoming damage, see what you can do with that. But it could be Scepters as well. Shopkeeper Dog does like the Scepter. Basically, it has the same passive as a few other Sosij units, which, like the Pilgrim, for example, when you attack a unit, you're debuffing it, making it so that if they die during the effect of this debuff, they will start to, they give resources over to your opponent there in that case. So, oh, I lost my Dracodon. Well, like a quarter of its resource cost gets given to the Sosij player. So this is an instance where you do have to watch out for that kind of thing. And Scepters are definitely an option here. There goes the eyelet detecting the Witness, so that's a little unfortunate. I guess the second one must have went down as well. Or that was the first one that went all the way back with the army or something like that. Not entirely sure. Some static defense being set up here and a Nexus, but it feels like Sosij is kind of flying blind. There is no detection inside the main base, and we do have the Panoplies coming. Man, what is he doing over here? I think he's going Silver Soul, if I had to guess. Eyelet now detected, courtesy of the Chantry, or cloaked rather, courtesy of the Chantry, and you can see that the rest of the army is as well. This is by the choke point, so not only are you going to heal units around this choke point, as long as there's no active combat, you're also going to get a cloak proc on everything. But that's what the witnesses are for. Mind Tyrant coming out, Ancestral Archives coming out. No Pariah? Not that I can see anyway, so I'm curious as to what all we're going to see from Sosij. He is going for what I assume is going to be Optectons. A single missionary looking to see if it can do some heckling over here at the third base. Obviously, this means that Sosij's economy is better than his opponents. We got multiple Pilgrims building that landlock. I was talking about Scepters, but it is indeed Objects instead. Scepters will have that passive for giving you money over your opponent when you kill their units, but it also has a different sort of passive where when it takes fatal damage, it deploys onto the ground. Narrow escape from that missionary there, courtesy of its passive there, Impact Dissipation. But the Scepter has the deployment on taking fatal damage for the first time, and during that time it does provide armor penetration in a radius, and so that's kind of what I was wondering about. The Insurance is on the way here for Shopkeeper Dog. He does like that unit. That's another unit that has the Scrap passive, so you're going to see good money there. Pretty reasonable, you know, fighting power as well. This is a very centralized force, though, is by the looks of things. It doesn't really seem like Shopkeeper Dog is too bothered. He's scaling up the power level a little bit faster than Sosij is. It feels like Sosij, you know, he's getting his Optecton out. His second Ancestral Archives is coming, but no Crucible to empower any of his production, and his Prostration Stage would need a second one anyway. I mean, at the very least, he's definitely eclipsed his opponent in terms of worker count. But the military count is much higher for Shopkeeper Dog, and those units are not that far off in power. I mean, you think about the number of units here. We don't actually have an overabundance of like missionaries, like cheap units, where you'd kind of compare it to like a Zerg army and say, oh yeah, it's supposed to be twice the size or more of the Protoss army. In this particular case, Shopkeeper Dog has simply built a really, really powerful, high tonnage army. And Sosij, by comparison, is going to need to do something about that. Now, he has multiple Mind Tyrants, but he doesn't have his fighting power yet. The Optecton can help with that. It does look like a Cloaked Missionary has sniffed out this Nexus. I guess the rest of the army is in charge of snuffing it out, but they might not do that. In fact, the Witness comes in to see the Missionary, and maybe it'll get a little bit curious further up. Optecton has been sighted, evidence of it anyway. As soon as these units attack, they lose that cloak, by the way, from the Chantry. It is a one-time effect. The Bulwark providing protection is going to allow targeting onto things like the objects, but those objects are also going to absorb a ton of the damage. Optecton, courtesy of the Mind Tyrant, is now a Malefactor. That will mean some control options over for the Protoss, but he only has the one Optecton right now. He is producing two more. One of them closer to completion than the other, but the third base is shellacked, and there will not be many workers that survive. The ground army coming on in for good value. And remember those Insurance in the back line there. It does look like most of them have gone down. Yeah, only one of them left remaining that I can see. There's another one that is still over here, but he's taking a beating. It does look like all of the scrap passives that you might have been able to see Shopkeeper Dog inject more money into his own veins about have been taken care of. And he didn't destroy the Nexus. He did do a heavy amount of damage to the worker count, and he is also leveling and has leveled the Nexus over here at 9 o'clock. And so Shopkeeper Dog, pretty sharp, has taken multiple bases during the downtime. He's sort of remembering now that he needs to saturate this base. So he's very much... feels like he could have actually taken a worker lead off of that attack had he been a little bit more on the ball on the macro side of things, but maybe that's pessimism, maybe that's inaccurate. Oh man, the salvoing down, even forcing deployments on the Thomologs. When the Thomolog is deployed, you actually get extra attack speed from being hit instead of the movement speed that you get from being hit when the Thomolog is not deployed, so a pretty nifty unit there in terms of like if you can get it in the front line, it'll start shooting down things a little bit faster. Oh, but this is really bad. The Optectons are moving out. The Protoss army is abandoning the third base, and there is no economic comeback from this position. So even though there's an engram on the way, he is going to need to fall double back here. He sees the cloak and immediately pulls back. Doesn't need to wait for anything else. This is going to be a nice little injection of minerals over to Shopkeeper Dog, courtesy of those Insurance. And the Witness even gets sniped off as well. The Mimics do provide mobile detection, which not everybody knows. Some Patriarchs are sighted here, tier 4 Protoss ground units. And it does look like more Mind Tyrants and more Uptectons are on the way. This is going to be a pretty deadly, dastardly fight, but there's not much of a front line at all here for Sosij, and if these units do get chewed through and the Sosij units manage to engage upon them, oh yeah, it looks like they are getting right on top. Where is that mind control that we need? It turns out the Sosij are just killing the mind-controlled units and using them as scrap to fuel the war machine elsewhere, engaging right on top of the Uptectons, and they are able to walk right up on them. Not at all what Shopkeeper Dog's usual MO is, as GG is called. The Uptectons don't hold him back. No wonder he's not playing Terran anymore. GG indeed, with a lot of money in the bank courtesy of those insurance. And I do think it comes back down to frontline. There was almost no ground units in front of the Uptectons. If they had been there, maybe that fight would have turned out differently. I also got to think about maybe if he had gone for Unitary and gone Unar or Architect or something like that. Even like an Acantor Ball potentially could have been better. Something that's a little bit more direct damage with Splash, because you do have to watch out for those objects in the backline trying to absorb things, and it just gets a little hairy a little quickly. Nonetheless, Shopkeeper Dog has shown what happens when you just kind of leave him alone for a little bit. Let's see what happens in Game 2. We're moving on to the next map. We are back to Patadia, if you guys can believe it. Yes, we actually started to mix up the map pool for Gauntlet Stage and beyond. This will be the final map pool for all of the rest of Acropolis number 4. And that map pool does contain a mix of maps from both sets of tribunals. You guys remember the first 3 tribunals? It included Patadia and a few other maps. And then we had completely different maps for the last 3 tribunals, and it was a good way to field test things. I definitely won't be doing such extended qualification for Acropolis 5, but you can expect some kind of similar format where, you know, one phase of the qualification stuff has one set of maps and another phase has another set, and you know, maybe we end up restricting the maps that we can play in our weeklies when we get back to those, just to help us thin out like any maps that maybe aren't given super great games, and really maximize which ones are given super awesome ones. So yeah, looking forward to that. Of course, I'll call out like which phase of the qualification space each map was originally sourced from, in case you guys are familiar or not and curious. But this map is indeed a BDB map. Our previous map, of course, Macroglia, also a BDB map. And it is going to be a very fast 3-gate start here for Sosij, to the point where his first gateway can't make a unit. Would have to cut a worker if he wanted to afford like a Legionnaire, which it is going to be. So the Pilgrim will scout it out. It is a radix into another fast Gauntlet play with 3 workers power building. So that's going to be an economic hit to Shopkeeper Dog in a way that you can argue there was maybe an economic hit to afford all 3 of these gateways. But when his Pilgrim comes in and he sees that, I actually really like this adaptation from Sosij. I'm going to be real with you guys. I think that Sosij came in, saw what was going on, said, I left him alone a little bit too much. I'm going to try something a little bit more cheeky. I'm going to make it so that he can't play those tech builds anymore. And he is going to be able to finish the Pilgrim courtesy of his Legionnaire. Only 1 missionary. Yeah, he's going to have to start making some radix. Doesn't pull the workers off the gauntlet, interestingly enough. Seems like he still wants those very important Vicars. And they will be good for splash damage, so if the Vicars get out in any significant number, the Legionnaire count could end up dropping. A 4-gate. Oh, he cancels it, though. Some indecision here from Sosij. That could end up costing him. I feel like this is a build that really needs to run away with the victory. You know, if he was up in front of his opponent with all of the Legionnaires that he currently has in production and all, we could definitely see a bit of a different story. Hey, check this out. Shopkeeper Dog doesn't actually have the gas to build any Vicars yet, so he does need to rectify that situation, and he's going to do so by harvesting from not the Ridge, but the Geyser. And by the way, Patadia does have that quirk about it where the Ridge is a little bit further away. Something to keep in mind. Only 1 Vicar will be available when that first attack hits, it looks like. But the missionary count's pretty good. Legionnaires aren't the best versus missionaries in particular, so yeah, you know, you can argue here that there's some legs, and I don't say that as like a joke because, you know, Legionnaire shorthand is leg, you know, when people are talking about it. This attack could definitely still have some legs to it. You know, you take the 12, by the way, Legionnaires that he's got, double it, 24 legs to it. Pilgrim will be So initially citing just a couple of the Legionnaires, but then all of them jump on it. I don't know. That might have been a little bit too, you know, showing up, you know, a little bit too show-offy. 2 more missionaries coming. The Vickers in the back. Well, now the jig is up in theory, so that splash damage is going to be coming in pretty hard, and it doesn't look like Sosij wants to stand and fight. So now it feels like he's in between 2 worlds. Adding Drakidons at this stage, I guess with Legionnaires in the front could help out. And allow you to sort of range down things. But the Vicar has reasonable range. The Vicar does have reasonable range to sort of duel from this position. The multiple Pilgrims and the Dyad coming out for the load, not the Lodestone, that's a Terran add-on. Sorry, Landlock. Either way, it's going to be Sosij holding the L's. Yeah, keep those repositions in mind. The Vicars can pull allies towards their location. So, pretty difficult. On top of the fact that they slow stuff, yeah, it can be pretty potent. We're going to have to see whether Sosij can find a winning composition. I love the Ardent Authority, and the Embassy afterwards tells me it's an Akantor drop. But this is not the most, like, mathed out, you know, dialed in, money flowing build where everything is super good on the economy side. And he's not going for an expansion. So this does seem to me like this will be our, you know, all-in sort of play. If the Akantor drop doesn't really put Shopkeeper Dog behind, or if the way that the units end up working together here just don't end up netting Sosij a significant advantage, I don't know that this game will be able to continue on. There's the Proselyte for the Islet. That's going to help spy witnesses that are trying to lazily walk over the army. And it looks like the Proselyte's earmarked for an interesting position on the map. He's actually just going to scout for non-standard base taking, I guess, because he's already confirmed that there's no natural. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's something. The Scribe was down there and then didn't take an expansion. But the last time Shopkeeper Dog saw that, admittedly, was some time ago. Still, if it's an opportunity for him to see what's going on the other side of the map, I think it's well considered. Is it going to spot this Akantor drop? No, the Envoy is going to go a different direction. So the Proselyte, even though it's a pretty speedy unit, isn't going to be super useful in that respect. I guess unless it just kind of hangs out here for a while, then maybe. In fact, Sosij does want a Nexus after all. A second Dyad in production. No, he's actually making 2, using both landlocks for a rotation of Dyads so that he can keep producing units. And he does want that Proscenium. So, sort of business as usual here for Shopkeeper Dog. I'm sure there are ways to punish this more greedy style, and he did end up confirming the Nexus timing, by the way. I'm sure there are ways to punish this greedier style of play. Dude, no way that Proselyte went exactly where the Envoy went. Got double Legionnaire in there. A Vicar and 2 Missionaries as the roving hit squad. I mean, the Akantor can fight this. It's not actually that big of a deal. In this situation, you might want to even go after, like, the infrastructure. I mean, the Gauntlet's pretty beefy, but I'm thinking about, like, the Radix only has 900 health. The Landlock only has 1250. I think it's a legit possibility. Oh, dear. Oh, no. He didn't unload anything. Right. Nice to see Sosij participating, but I think he's going to have to go to the next map now. I don't know. There might even be ways to salvage it from this position, but he can't really do anything on the map. He's really put himself behind with his opener, and then, yeah, I was starting to say a few times there that Shopkeeper Dog definitely can be punished in the way that he's going about his approach. And Sosij half attempted something about that, but we saw him cancel the 4th gate. That's, you know, what is it, a quarter of 175 minerals down the drain there, not quite given back. He's got 1 Akantor on the defense. That's something the Vicars can step to if given the opportunity. It's scooped up by the Envoy. Remember, the Vicars can also help with that. He's just doubling back, and he can even dodge the dodge balls with a Vicar pull if he's good enough on the micro front. Doesn't seem like it's super necessary yet. Drakidon count's still pretty good. Trying to steal away what he can there, but there's some pretty good connections from the Akantor. This is 1 Akantor, guys. Sosij doesn't have anything in the production tab. Scrambles 3 more Drakidons out. 1 more Akantor can start running down. The Strider's getting mulched by the Sosij army. Oh, don't you dare pick that Akantor up, it feels like, but Sosij does dare and lives to fight another day. So, okay, we're seeing evidence of maybe a composition that would do a little bit better into what Shopkeeper Dog has planned. And remember, Vicars were a significant part of that sort of mid-game army that Shopkeeper Dog was making. Still is producing more where he can. It's a pretty cost-efficient Tier 1 unit with a little bit of utility. But once again, the Bestiary going into the Conduit, Witness Spy and everything. Thomologs coming out for their utility as a bit of a beefier unit, and then straight into Aphorists for crowd control. And there's the Prostration Stage at the natural, the way Sosij likes it. But honestly, I think Acantors are a really good option to sort of beat this back. And, well, he's going to have an opportunity to strut his stuff here as well. And a couple of connections, but he wanted more than that. Oh, there you go. That's a big, juicy one. Oh, man, 13 kills. And you know most of them were not military units. He ends up getting away with almost a 15th. But, yeah, that was 13 workers, I'm pretty sure. That was a really successful drop there from Sosij on the second attempt. Partially courtesy of his witness spying out for him, but very nice indeed. Returning to the scene of the crime, the scene of the massacre. Does that give Sosij some actual advantage coming back into it, though? There's a macro landlock inside the natural and an expansion at the 6 o'clock for shopkeeper dogs. So we are going to see a lot more workers in the near future. Second frustration stage. What are we getting out of this? Is it going to be a pariah max? This is before the targeting fixes that addressed a significant issue with automatic unit pathfinding during attack move, where they would attack target, their attack target would go on to whatever was in the back, and it would never update. So if they found another unit closer by, then they wouldn't retarget. And so that was an important bug to fix, but the Gauntlet stages are not played on that particular update. That's going to have to come in a little bit later. Envoy with an Acantor and a Zealot can shut down this landlock at the very least, but Aphorists have been dispatched for the job. This Proselyte will be taken out and spies the third base coming down. I do like just picking the Pilgrim in this situation. That's not bad. Just get out of dodge. The Aphorists can only attack ground, so keep that in mind. Some more on the way over here to try to finish off the units inside the Envoy. I wonder if he knows that about the Aphorist. Yeah, maybe he's clued into it now. You saw him double back there for a second and then try to switch back around. Any workers being sent over here? Yes, a single Pilgrim to try to resume building the landlock. Yeah, honestly, I feel like Shopkeeper Dog is in a much tougher situation in this game. And if the first Acantor drop hadn't just been caught immediately, and the build hadn't been quite so friendly to Shopkeeper Dog in the end, this could be a lot. This could have been a lot nicer, I feel like. Down goes the Islet by the looks of things. The Acantor taking that out on the way out. So no more detection in the main base. And it does look like there was a hatch for the Spectator. I don't believe that the game... I didn't receive any notes about the games breaking, so I think we're good to go on that front. But Blue's Jujic handling this one. Thomolog's just shooting away. Big dogs off the leash. Big Thomologs off the leash. That's a lot of panoplies, by the way. We are going to see insurance massing for sure. Pilgrims doing their best to start saturating this base. Still a worker lead for Sosij despite his much slower expansion cadence in this game. And pariahs are definitely going to be a reasonable option here, but remember that targeting spiel I had earlier. Now, the Acantor is still just hanging out here. The Envoy is going to dive in, or at least like posture a little bit, but yeah, I mean, he's pulling the army around. He's definitely giving it some looks. And now it's dead. He died over the cliff, which makes it ambiguous if the Acantor is still there. It's kind of, I don't know if that was a deliberate choice or what, but he was playing with him a little bit. It's just, I don't know what value the Acantor actually gives you from this position. And also the Thomologs might actually be able to see it anyway. I don't quite know. But yeah, let's just say we do have quite a bit of power coming out from the Sosij side of things. I don't know. I feel like the objects are coming because we see the multiple functions. Economy not quite there to scale up the way that he did on Macroglia. The army's looking kind of sizable. I think the Mimic like walked by and yeah, passively detected it a little bit. Silver Soul's out. So Silver Souls do give you the Chantry Cloak, but as a mobile unit. So pretty powerful option there because you can just recloak when you're not in active combat. A whole buttload of pariahs. Only a few Acantors. I feel like the dedicated splash damage from the backline is going to be a little bit limited there. And again, where are our detectors here? We got one witness off to this side. Not quite there. Well, he reveals one unit and immediately gets pranked by it. The Aphorists are okay at splashing down some of these guys, but yeah, you're going to want the pariahs on the front line, of course, just as a matter of course. Vicar gets pulled into the line of fire. Yeah, this army doesn't look very sturdy for Shopkeeper Dog, but the Pariahs, most of them are not actually engaging here. He is going to have to double back. Draconid's struggling a little bit there. Well, there's a lot of insurance back to this side too. Oh, you know what? I think the replay might just be a little bit bugged, but it's surmising from what I'm seeing here. I'm guessing the insurance joined in the fight, and the Pariahs ended up getting mulched because there's not really any reason why, you know, Sosij would be all the way back here, and then the rest of the army would be off to this side. The replay breakages do happen sometimes, but only at the very end here, it looks like. Everything else was pretty good, and the rest of the insurance are revealed even to our spectator POV. And, I mean, you had the Acantors. This is a regular issue that we've seen from the Sosij, actually. His Acantors arrive with the rest of the army way late, and then they can't quite provide the same power reserve that you would want. At this point, I actually don't know who's supposedly winning, but I'm seeing Shopkeeper Dog's POV be deeper, and these units be idle, which means they died in the real version of the game. Normally, we would have like a spectator POV version of this, but I believe because he desynced, yeah, we definitely have a funny situation here. Top right being taken, Shopkeeper Dog pushing out. Jujic asking the important questions. No, says Sosij. Oh yeah, Shopkeeper Dog streamed, but yeah, Jujic said that he didn't have a scene in OBS ready to capture this, so we're gonna cast it from the mini-map camera view, and the fact that the army is actually being used and selected in these key locations tells me that for real, Shopkeeper Dog's over here pushing up, and we got some units off the rallies, but not that many. The Cantor stack over there is pretty good. Man, I mean, obviously I would have loved to see like the legit fight. But I'm guessing what happened is that the power of the insurance started to reign supreme. You can see how many are actually being made. And Sosij is going to call G, single G. I think he knows he could have done more in this game. And that if that attack had hit like maybe like 2 minutes earlier before the tier 3 really started popping off, and it probably would have, at least earlier than the tier 3, even if it was the same time, because that first Cantor drop was supposed to do so much more damage, and instead he got nothing out of it. He set himself back economically with the build order, he didn't set his opponent back, he expanded later, and still he had chances in the game. I think it has to be said. I'm looking forward to seeing if he can turn it around, because this doesn't look unassailable to me, but we'll see. We'll see. My table squeaks in disagreement, so let's see what happens. Which one is right, me or my table? Comment below. Game 3 coming up. Game 3 is where we are. Magnetron is where we fight. Sosij in the top right, the white Protoss. Shopkeeper Dog, the bottom left, he seems to be Vivid Red. Vivid Red Sosij. I didn't color guess last game, but I think it was white Protoss again. And I think, yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. I mean, Shopkeeper Dog has opened pretty much the same build each game. Is he going to change his style now that we know that the Sosij occasionally throws the you know, the 3-gate, almost 4-gate, like 3.5-gate, I don't know what you would call that build. Because I think it got halfway through to completion before they canceled. Something I'm also a little bit curious about, what happens if Sosij goes Vassal? Or maybe not Vassal, but like Lattice Open. Can missionaries actually kill Sims? Is that a thing? My guess is that you would want like a few Sims before you fight one missionary. But I feel like that would be... That feels like a doable like unit tester check or something. I don't know. And of course, idols, I would assume, are going to do a lot better versus like the stacked up bio. Obviously, you got to throw some nods towards the impact dissipation passive, where some certain Sosij units, including the missionary, will take, you know, they'll move faster and heal a little bit. Or over the course of like 5 seconds, I think it is 15 health. So it's not a negligible amount of health, but it does take a very long time to actually get there. It looks like instead Sosij will open 2-gate Drac, which does have a little bit more power. It factually has more legs, of course. That's a big one. Because they have 4 legs, the Striders. Pilgrim going to pop up here and see what's going on. The 2-gate open doesn't really tell him that much, but obviously the Draconin is going to pop out. In this situation, I would almost value sending the Draconin across the map more than killing the worker. Obviously, you might be able to do both if they're just going to return all the way across the map, but in a situation like this, if the first Draconin starts to march across the map, the same way that P tries to kind of pressure the other races to some degree with their first unit, sometimes the Protoss player will do that, and I think it often is a good move. But, you know, in this particular case, if Shopkeeper Dog takes this funky path home instead of the auto path, and the Draconin doesn't, I think that's actually fine. I don't think you go hunt the worker here. You want to see what pressure you can make, what things you can do. If you just target the same missionary twice, you are doing damage through the heal, and they're not going to be able to do much damage to you. They do not have the armor penetration necessary. In fact, they have 0 to deal with the dragon. So he's going to catch the Pilgrim on the way back to the choke point. He does need one more hit to seal the deal, and it does look like that is not going to come to him. No, he does force it down. Okay, good targeting there. That's a excellent first step here, and he is sending the other Draconins off straight off the rally. He's got 2 more and a Nexus worth of minerals on the way as well. Only needs a little bit of Vespi in here to actually make those Draconins. They're a decent amount of minerals, but only 25 Vespi. And don't get me started on the Atreus. I think this next fight is going to be a little bit tighter. The Vicar is already out, so the slow is going to be a little bit more difficult for him to deal with. And you have that more persistent heal because of the Vicar pull. But the Dyad is out, and he does want to go for his expansion. And it's going to be a little bit tricky. Instead, the Dyad, I guess, will just be fodder. Oh, wait, attacking my own Strider. What's going on here? He's got 2 more Draconins on the way. The Vicar doesn't end up confirming the slow on, or the Vicar doesn't confirm the slow on the Draconin, so no kill there. I don't know, we're starting to get a little bit more dire in terms of, like, I'm seeing the Sosij army grow in power, but look at the Strider count here. We got 5. If he goes on 5 here, you know, you get past an inflection point, you can start focusing down these units. You can try to pull all you want, but yeah, this is eventually what's going to start happening to you. So it does feel like Sosij has some thoughts here. Forcing a cancel onto the expansion is good. He dives forward. Good adaptations there. The Poles are trying to keep some of these units alive. The Dyad does go down. That's expensive, and it's a worker queue. So it's like forcing a structure out of a, from a Droleth out of a Zerg player or something. The dodges here, the Poles are really big. The Vicars are going to be able to overpower the Draconins because they're standing on top of each other, and that secondary delayed explosion from the slow deals splash damage. That's why they're so good versus, for example, pool units. It happens when the slow expires, it happens when the unit dies. So Sosij did not split his Drax. I don't know if he's not familiar with that mechanic. And now he's caught a little bit lazy here. That Draconin is not escaping. So we restart the landlock with only workers. That's 5 Vicars and 1 missionary. I mean, you can tell what's really going on here. Oh man, if Sosij hadn't hemorrhaged those Draconins at the end, I really feel like he could have done something there. I almost do wonder if the Atreus would be any good though, because it doesn't have the same single target fire in the same way, right? It has the projectile that intercepts. So I don't know. That 1 missionary standing out in front, yeah, he's dead. But I think he spread the word, He helped the Vicars spread the damage, at least. Think about how much more pressure we could have had here from Sosij if his Drax had stayed alive a little bit better. I don't know. I'm seeing a little bit of a recipe here, where if you wanted to try to pressure this specific build from Shopkeeper Dog, he wouldn't be able to get away with, Radix into Gauntlet rushing, necessarily. Very close to overwhelming. In fact, even when he was going up the ramp, if he had just been able to split, force his way forward, it could have been an option, but he's kind of stacked up even now. Trying to fall backwards here. Maybe he can focus down those Vicars. The Poles come out to try to dodge the projectiles. I guess this is the micro battle here, right? This is actually the micro battle. Do you target the right unit? Do you split your Draconins? Do the Poles get targeted on the right unit to try to, at the right time, to dodge the projectiles? These are all things you got to factor in. And during that time, are you still able to dish out enough damage to break the Drax? That's a good question. Rogue Gallery coming up. 4 gate, but the Drax are not actually being produced right now. He's got a good number of them, 11, and he's going for a mineral-only base, which I actually really dig in this situation. Past 3rd, try to get more Drac production, presumably. And I'm guessing the Rogue Gallery is actually to leapfrog into Tier 3. So we're not actually done with the pressure. Shopkeeper Dog does have that second base a little bit later than we're used to seeing him. And he's going to go for 2 Prosceniums. Normally he goes for 3, but he just doesn't have the Dyad count. He ends up making a second landlock on the natural instead. Okay. So he's still sticking to the same build. He just wants something a little bit different. All right. Nexus halfway complete. Remember, qualification on the line, not elimination. Sosij, if he loses this game, will be cast down into the lower bracket to face Kutyam Chupan. That will be Protoss versus Terran, if that's the case. And he is the higher seed either way. So, and by the way, even if we don't have if we had an upset and say seed number 8 made it to the upper qualification, when you fall down to the lower bracket, you still retain the higher seed in that situation. So you get the veto advantage, and that's just because you didn't have to fight through the lower bracket, so you weren't a loser until you lost the upper qual. then you were a loser. But, you know, a loser with some winnings. Crucible to empower the prostration stage and not the 4-gate. Okay, interesting choice. He's actually had that a bit idle anyway. Looks like he only made one more round of Drax. No, they're Zealots, actually. He's going to use them for scouting, I guess. Chantry on the way. No detection yet, but the embassy is on the way for Sosij, so we should be able to see that pretty soon. I don't know if I like the follow-up quite as much. We don't have a lot of scribes to saturate this base. If we take a look, yeah, we're not even saturated in the natural. And it looks like we're slightly oversaturated in the main mineral line, but got the 3 workers on gas, got the sedants. Oh yeah, he's got 3 workers on this gas as well. He's really powering on Vespene here, despite taking a mineral-only 3rd base. So what is his plan in Tier 4? Is that what he's doing? Is he waiting for Tier 4? Don't tell me it's a Star Sovereign rush, because I will have a good time with that. No, Ancestral Archives, okay. I wonder what he thinks he's going to do with that. Genuinely. Like, I'm a bit curious. I also wonder if Storm even works on Ascozi in the same way. Like, do you just run through it or out of it? I feel like the Vickers would have a bit of a hard time. Obviously, they can reposition, but that is what it is. Ancestral Archives on the way. I'm still wondering what he's going to make. Does he want to try Optecton again, but with, like, Drak as the front line? A couple Zealots as well. Hard to say. Doesn't have any latent detection in the natural. His second witness, I think, is coming out now, because the first one, I would assume, is out in the map, but I guess not. Scribe goes for the 3 o'clock, will be denied by a missionary. Army gonna have to walk back into the Chantry for that cloak, unless he waits for a Silver Soul, but doesn't currently have the conduit by the looks of things. Oh no, it's down here in the natural. Okay, that makes a bit more sense. So yeah, Panoplies will start coming down here. Really funny that Shopkeeper Dog just sticks to the same build. I wonder if a consideration for him was not showing too much in the gauntlets, because he knew that at the very least the qualification match would be cast. He did have a 2-0 result over Grass Eater. I don't think I'll be casting any of those, so I didn't feel too uncomfortable about spoiling the results of those matches. But he did play versus Zerg earlier in the tournament. Now a slightly delayed 4th base coming out here with gas at the 3 o'clock location for our Protoss. I am a little bit concerned because the Ascozi is taking the mineral only, and the function is coming up. I mean, the thing is, the economic advantage is clearly with the Protoss, but the investment... By the way, this unit is on patrol, I believe. Yeah, it's really hard to see, but there is actually a patrol line there when I hold Alt, so that's why it's spinning. It was made to spin on purpose and left there. It's like, yeah, you can turn now because we remodeled your sprite because of Shut Up Balathal, remodeling the Draconin, Solstice for handling some material changes later on in that model's life cycle. Yeah, you do that. Okay. All right, buddy. Well, prove it. And then it just spins. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. Like, is there going to be more of a push towards it because it's Optecton and a second Ancestral, which I believe will be in the radius of the Crucible. I certainly hope so for Sosij's sake. Prostration stage didn't make anything, by the way. Oh no, that's a lie. It made some Sycophants. Hey, stop spinning. Sycophants are probably pretty good for that shield sustain, but I feel like they'd be really good with like Archon or something. Doranin are showing up now. Proscenium with the Bestiary, and the Silver Soul is there as well. Ooh, the Witness spotted away. Silver Soul is itself a detector, so... Bit of a cheeky unit. Mimic came around. Easy enough to finish off the Witness. At this point, you must be concerned about the army composition. This is another thing, though. Shopkeeper Dog only has to worry about learning his race, really. He's already played the game enough to learn the other races. So he's playing Ascozi now. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to build this army. Nobody knows what my units do. And Sosij is like, I guess I'll just make up Tectons. That makes Shopkeeper Dog rage quit. Not as the Ascozi, that's for sure. Oh, the Pilgrim was cloaked. It decloaks when it starts building. Very cheeky. Nexus at the low ground, high gas base, and it looks like he even wanted to go to 12 o'clock to make that. Now the missionary's starting to fall away, and just make life a little bit more difficult. I wonder... I feel like with the Optectons coming out... we got 3 of them here, 4 of them here. This is like the max that Sosij actually had back when we were thinking about game 1. So this next engagement here, well, he's moving on the 3 o'clock, which doesn't have a lot of static defense, and even if it did, I don't think it would help very much here. But the Protoss army is going to animate forward, and we got a lot of insurance and Vickers in production. Do we have any insurance with the fight? No, only one off to the side. Nothing up here on this side either. But still, Sosij is holding back. He doesn't actually want to pull the trigger on the attack. He could box this army in. Now he's going to move forward as the rest of it is shown. I feel like Shopkeeper Dog was actually waiting, but he needs to be able to exfil his army here, and I don't think he can just chew through all of this. But maybe I'm wrong. He does have some splash damage from the Aphorists in the back. Sycophants struggling to get... this is the attack targeting I was talking about earlier. The Uptectons are a little bit too busy dealing with all the units on the low ground, but it does look like the Protoss are breaking on through. And they haven't suffered too many losses just yet, it feels like. Tecton count still high. Patriarch's on the way from that Ancestral Archives. We're going to need some more chaff to help deal with any of those recyclers from the side of the Sosij. But even as he tries to waste as much time as possible, another round of units is moving forward to start dealing with that Nexus. It's just an insurance stack, and it will come in and wipe out these undefended bases. These are endgame units for the Sosij that Shopkeeper Dog has rushed for every game so far. You can see the Uptectons and the Patriarchs trying their best. Hold them at bay. The Patriarch does deal that splash damage, you know, AoE slow, but it's not quite enough, it feels like. Yeah, the insurance are starting to fall away. They only have 100 health. They don't actually stand and fight very well if they're being fired upon directly. Even still, the Nexus is going to be brought down pretty low, a vulnerable target later on. And the Pilgrim, 2 insurance, a missionary, and a vicar walk into a Tensender. Anyway. Now, again, where does that leave us? Sosij lost his 3 o'clock, his low ground gas base, his unsaturated, you know, undersaturated mineral line there from the mineral-only expansion. Now he only has mineral-only bases plus his gas nodes that he's already saturated. At the very least, he has aquifers, so we can tip our hat to him there. The Zealot all the way downtown does get cleaned out, and the Sosij are taking the counter bases that effectively just got canned by the moves from Shopkeeper Dog. Tecton count is rising, but it feels like it needs to have a good engagement. Like, what was so good about the Protoss engagement here is that the Draconids wrapped all the way around, right? And then they came up here while the Tectons shelled everything from afar. This is a much more open engagement field, so we have to watch out for whether Sosij actually gives his army the right setup. Some of his Tectons were on attack moves, so they actually engage and block the others. Gotta watch out for that. The Witness off to the side here, very important for seeing the full breadth of the Sosij army before that cloak starts to dissipate. And the Dorian are getting right on top of everything. It doesn't look like the chaff was actually re-maxed here by Sosij. He did not make enough ground units to deal with this. And even though he is going to, it seems like maybe be able to deal with this army, you can see him breaking through the Doranans. The insurance count is still high. They were busy focused on those frontliners instead of the heavy damage dealers that don't have any health. He's just throwing down pylons to see what he can do. The insurance obviously paying for themselves more than enough by dealing with that. And GG is called with Shopkeeper Dog qualifying directly to the Battlement stage without a single map loss in the Gauntlets. A far cry from his Terran performance where he almost got annihilated by the Shambler and ultimately did fall to Newt. But here he is, 3-0 over Sosij. Obviously very different competition in that respect. But I did actually like that Sosij was genuinely trying different approaches each game. I feel like he had some good ideas in there that if the builds were dialed in, if his unit control was better. I mean, the Draconian game, the opener from Magnetron that we just watched, very winnable, very doable. But at the end of the day, he doesn't end up scoring the ultimate score of victory and taking us to a 4th map. He will fall down to face Kutiam in the lower qualification match, but first we have another upper qual match. I believe it's Art of Turtle versus Jack Yolansky, if memory serves, so that's going to be some Zerg Mirror magic coming your way tomorrow. Subscribe and stay tuned. We'll be giving you more Cosmonarchy all week long.